guys. New week, new show. Welcome to show number 12 of the Curt Schilling Baseball Show, aptly named because that's me. And we have a lot to get to. Bill Graff, what's up, Billy?
Awesome opening weekend. Lot
Very
learned. Yeah, we learned a lot. Where do you want to kick it off?
Let's talk about the new rules, because I thought that there was, I think I was wrong, and I was horribly underestimating the impact of some stuff. I didn't expect the pitch clock to be much of an issue. I don't know how many games we played, but you had 14 violations opening day, 40 so far. Considering the amount of games and the amount of at-bats and the amount of pitches, that's not very many at all. And players will adjust because everybody has to deal with it. We saw the first muff by the umpires was in the Met game. Was that Saturday?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, and Pete Alonso basically was walking off a foul ball from second base back to first, and somewhere halfway between first and second, they started the 30-second clock.
Right. Yeah, I didn't. That was nowhere in anything I read about, because the at-bat can't start till the runner gets back to the base, and I didn't know that there was a time for. By the way, I'm kind of curious as to who is running the pitch clock.
It's the home plate umpire.
The home plate umpire has the home plate umpire runs the pitch clock. That's interesting, because you're gonna see some confrontations this year, because there's going to be some umpires. We'll talk about one of the worst ones ever, either today or on Friday's show, being called out for being just bad, and it wasn't Angel Hernandez, believe it or not. But couple things I noticed. So opening day, the Giants-Yankees game, Yankees won 5-0. I think the game was 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Yep.
Which was quicker than every home game in Yankee Stadium last year by a wide margin. But the thing that got me was there was 32 punch-outs in the game. I think Garrett Cole had 9 through 4 innings. He ended up with 10 or something, but there was 32 punch-outs. By both 16 by both teams, 16 by a team that scored 5 runs, 16 by a team that scored none. Tigers punched out 14 times on Sunday. Strikeouts are up. They're up by a lot. The average K rate so far is 23.76%. Well, they're not. I thought it was up that much. It's 23.76, up from 22.54. But I think we saw the trend starting last year where the game is turning into home runs or strikeouts. I think that's kind of changing, though, for a couple different reasons. Some surprising stuff. Saw 5 guys go 7 innings in their first start, which I guess is the modern-day complete game. 25 guys have gone 6 innings or more. 21 starting pitchers have given up 0 runs. None went less than 5. Very interesting.
That was the stat that caught me, because of everything you've talked about the transition to opening day.
Yep.
You had 21 guys go out there and throw 5, 6, or 7 scoreless innings.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're talking about that as something wowie is in and of itself a problem for me. So the fact that we're talking about that is, I don't want to say offensive, but it's funny to me, because when you left spring training, I hate to say it, back when I played, you were ready to pitch a complete game opening day. That was your job. You were starting pitcher. And now we're lauding these guys for going 5. And it's not necessarily the pitcher's fault. This is the way pitchers are being raised now. But the gentleman for the Mets, is it Kodai or Cody? Kodai Senga. So he had a good day. He had a very good day. He punched out 8, and all 8 were on his. I'm gonna use air quotes for this, ghost forkball. His fastball's upper 90s, 95, 96, 97. His forkball's 85. Just before we start getting off on, oh my God, it's a new pitch. It's a forkball. It's not a ghost fork. He can call it whatever he wants. That's fine. And you live your life. But it's a forkball. It's not more. And so the difference is this: a split finger fastball comes off your hands and it rotates, and you create rotation and downward break. A forkball is literally you split your fingers and the ball pops out of your hand. So you'll get very awkward rotation. The only guy I ever saw that threw a true forkball that was lethal and nasty was a guy named Brian Harvey, who closed for the Marlins, who was a phenomenal closer at the time. But he threw all eight Ks were on the forkball, all were swinging. And he only throws it 15% of the time with less than 2 strikes, 65% of the time with 2 strikes. So there's going to be a rush to getting the bat on the ball before you get to 2 strikes with this guy. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Because
so by holding the ball that way, Curt, does that have more of a knuckling effect?
Yes, it depends. It depends on the weather conditions. It's very hard to throw when it's dry, but it's probably harder to throw when it's humid, because you don't want the ball sticking to your hand, because sometimes you can just spike it. But it depends. It depends on that. It depends on how the balls are rubbed up. And a lot of it, see, my hands, while I think I have big hands, my hands that's why if you look, my right finger is kind of bent out. That's because I used to walk around holding a ball like this all the time. But guys that throw forkballs, it's even worse. I mean, this is in my hand like that, where I have to use force to pull it out. Whereas the split, this is my split, or I would hold it this. I would hold everything off to the side sometimes like this, but you can pull this out of my hand like this. It's a very different grip and a very different motion. You can throw a split. Power pitchers, when I was throwing hard, my split could be 87 to 91. But a forkball is low to mid 80s, depending on your power. Very different look and feel. Good hitters chase splits far more than they chase fastballs, because it's an obvious rotation thing. When the ball comes out of your hand, it pops out of your hand. So, but it worked. He punched out 8. I think he's as advertised in the first start that I saw. Electric stuff. But we're going to get to the one that I mentioned opening day, and the numbers are pretty profound. The shift. I knew it was going to affect the game. I don't know that I expected it to be this drastic this fast. At this point last season, batting average, the splits were 230, 308 on base percentage, 374 slugging. This year, 245, 323, 392. That is a profound and very significant difference. And I saw it. I think I mentioned to you, Bill, I saw it 5 times on opening day. I saw 5 balls that were groundouts, that were hits. And I started to realize that it's going to do 2 things. It's going to create a desire and a need for quick infielders with range, which, is old school. But I think more importantly, if you think about a guy like Dalton Varsho, who could, play 5 or 6 positions, if you want, and you'll see, I think you'll see the Mets probably do this if somebody hasn't already done it. You're going to see somebody, there's going to be a hitter like a Joey Gallo, who is not going to put the ball the other way, or somebody like that. They're going to bring an outfielder in to play the infield. And they'll vacate an outfield position to do that, which means there's going to be a premium on multi-positional position players. Not guys that you can put at second base, but guys that can play second base and guys that can play a corner outfield position. Because I think you're going to start to see that adjustment made. Because I know and analytics are going to be hilarious to read, because that that it's had a profound effect. And I would argue, for the most part, it's probably having an impact on every single game every day. And it's going to be very interesting to see how those numbers play out. The other one, I said the first day, I thought this was going to be the most dramatic. I thought stolen bases were going to change dramatically. And I thought they did. So opening day this year, 21 of 23 in stolen base attempts, compared to last year, 5 of 9. Most successful stolen base on any day of baseball since 1907. And so far through Sunday, and this is the number to pay attention to. In 2022, base runners were 29 of 43 for a 67% success rate, 67.4. In 2023, base runners are 70 of 84 The league is running above 80%, 83.3%. Absurd. That is so. You hear a term called green light, and for the most part, there are very few guys in your lineup you give the green light. And the green light is, hey, if you got a stolen base, take it, but you better be safe. And by you better be safe, and I always the number I always got from Theo was 80%. If you can guarantee me an 80% success rate, then you have a green light. The league is running at an 80% success rate.
And Curt, so you've got the stolen bases way up, and you've got batting averages way up, and a lot of those are singles, which are putting people on first base. That just all alters how games are being played.
Well, and you've heard me say this a couple times. At its core, baseball is very simple math, right? On base percentage is up, which means there's more base runners. There is a higher success rate in stolen bases, which means, what is it? Almost double the amount of stolen bases to this point in the game, which over a course of a season is going to be dramatic. So you're going to have more runners in scoring position, hence you're going to have more runs. You're going to have more offense in a 2.5-hour game, right? I mean, we're talking about the pitch clock and all the things that go with that, and the games are quick. There's, it's going to be what it is from a timing perspective. The game's going to be faster. But I got to tell you, I saw somebody commenting the other day, a fan, who said, holy crap, I can't get through 5 beers in a game now. And I kind of laughed about it, but think about that. Think about the concession sales that will cease to exist. And we're not talking about $2 sodas and $3 beers, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands, and it's going to end up being millions and millions of dollars in concessions lost because you're shaving 60 minutes, an hour. So in a ballpark, in 1 hour in a ballpark, how many beers, hot dogs, Cokes, popcorn, nachos do you think sell? Right? No more. So I'm curious. I'm very curious to see how the owners react to that.
Yeah, I saw the Indians and Mariners played a game, a 2-0 game, in 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Yep.
That's a college basketball game.
Yeah. No, I think I made 400 some starts in the big leagues. I think I was under 2 hours and 5 minutes like 5 times.
Wow.
In my entire career. I pitched against Mark Burley, and that could have been 21-20 and still been 2 hours and 2 minutes. But yeah. But like I said, I told you the pitch clock isn't going to affect good pitchers. And it really hasn't. And you've seen, I think everybody's kind of just trying to get used to it. I think the umpires are as well. But off of that, you had that stolen base stat. You had the Orioles, who I do want to talk about for a second. They had 10 stolen bases through their first 2 games, which is the third most by any team in Major League history. And again, when you say Major League history, you're talking about a century. That is incredible. Speaking of the Orioles, whose offense is clearly, Adley Rutschman was 5 for 5 opening day. I know he had an 0 for 5 Sunday, punched out 3 times, I think, but he's still hitting like 400. Anyway, they're 1-2. They beat Boston once. Should have actually swept them. They've scored 23 runs in their first 3 games, and I think opening day they were up 8-1 or 9-1, and they ended up winning by like a 9-8 score. They had a lead in the next 2 games. They bombed Chris Sale and still got beat. Their bullpen has given up 9 earned runs, 16 hits, 5 walks in 13 2/3 for an ERA of just over 6. Interesting numbers that Bill, you mentioned. They're one of 8 bullpens that spent less than $10 million total on its pitchers. Only the Cubs and Guardians
on its bullpen pitchers.
On its bullpen pitchers, right. On its bullpen pitchers. And there's 8 teams that have done it. The Cubs and the Guardians are the only teams considered contenders. And then the Guardians just signed Clace. I'm assuming he's going to be their closer to a 5-year, $20 million deal. So,
he's definitely their closer. He has nasty stuff.
Yeah. Well, the problem now is, like, I watch TV and you can say that about just about every guy I see.
Oh, you can.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, so the rules are having an enormous impact. Don't know if it's positive. Don't know if it's negative. I don't know what the viewership ratings are. I've seen as much negative feedback as I have seen positive. For a timeless game, it's going very quickly. And I'm sure that the younger generation loves it. I know the older generation, the get off my lawn generation, probably not as big of fans. But you know what? As someone who spent every Sunday night of about 4 years of my career as the Sunday night ESPN game, Yankees Red Sox, which was never less than 4.5 hours, I don't know that that's a horrible thing. And Yankee fans are getting a good team that's going to finish games in it. Because if you look at the way look at any good lineup, the way the Yankees and Red Sox were built throughout the years, you had two lineups that were on base percentage machines, which means a lot of pitches, which means a lot of pitching changes, which means a lot of walks, which means a lot of base runners, which means a lot of throwovers. So yeah, that's interesting to see that they're doing the things they're doing, and they're doing it inside of a 20-second pitch clock. I think they're going to see some tweaks, probably not till next year, because I think the sample size of the season will be more than enough to adjust. Somehow I forgot about the base runner on second, which I think might be the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I thought it was stupid when it happened. I thought it was stupid, and it's stupid now. It's not baseball. That's what we used to do when the sun was going down and the streetlights were going out and we needed the game to get over. I don't think that's what the Yankees need to do to get a game done. I really don't. I will tell
you, Curt, I think that is universal from players to managers to fans.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who likes this.
Right. Well, you can make an argument now that a 12 or 13 inning game is now a 3-hour game instead of a 5.5-hour game. Right. If you're getting 9 innings in on 2:45 or 2:30, then, you're talking about another hour for another couple extra innings, because it messes with statistics. It's absolutely messes with the outcome of a game. You know what it feels like, Bill? It feels like the college football tie rule almost.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has any place in the big leagues. I think it's a stupid rule when it was implemented. I think it's a stupid rule now, and I think it's going to be stupid until they get rid of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
If they don't do it in the postseason, why? Because it's stupid.
And it's not real baseball.
Well, and you're telling me you don't want a game in October decided, but it's okay if a game in September is, right? The game to get you into October contains a rule that won't be in the game in October. There's no logic if you follow that. So anyway,
questions.
So yes, let's go to questions.
Best one I saw all week was, who was your hardest murderer's row that you faced? Kind of like the Padres right now and their order.
There were two. The 1993 Blue Jays had the best offense I've ever seen. You had Ricky Henderson, Devon White, Roberto Alomar, Joe Carter, Paul Molitor, Tony Fernandez. It was insane. And I'm probably forgetting a Hall of Famer or three. And then the other one was the late 90s Yankees. With that core of Jeter, Martinez, Posada, Bernie Williams. And then they sprinkled in a Hall of Famer every year somewhere else. That lineup. And then the Yankees really were an issue for me when they got Matsui, because he was probably as tough and out in that lineup as anybody that I faced by a long shot. They had Sheffield. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And then they had A-Rod. I thank God I never had to face the 2003, 4, 5 Red Sox, because the lineup I pitched for was just sick. But I would say the 93 Blue Jays was the most talented lineup I ever faced in my life. Saw some stacked lineups, and there were a lot of times people put lineups out there that they said was stacked, but it didn't come to fruition. And then the late 90s Yankees, 90s Jeter's rookie year, 96, 97, 98, 99, those were all going into the early 2000s. That lineup was just stacked. And then the lineup I didn't see, there were two other lineups that I saw one, and the other one I didn't. The 94 Expos was an amazing lineup. And I thank God I wasn't in the American League to face the late 90s Cleveland Indians, because that was, I don't think people understand what that was. Albert Bell, Kenny Lofton, Roberto Alomar, Manny Ramirez, Jim Tomei, Eddie Murray was in there at some point. It was just Carlos Baerga. Who was the third baseman? Not Travis Fryman. Corey Snyder was early, but there was it was insane. And how that team didn't win a World Series with Bartolo Colon and all those guys, I don't know, but that was an insane lineup. That was a kind of a modern day Padres. It was a modern day Padres lineup with better hitters, I think. So I don't know that anybody in the Padres lineup is a Manny Ramirez or an Albert Bell in their prime. I mean, obviously, can be Soto, obviously, but I don't know about those. Manny in his prime was one of the greatest that ever lived, and Albert was a Hall of Famer in many ways going in there, and so was Kenny Lofton. The fact that Kenny Lofton got less than 5% on his first ballot is should have ended writers voting for anything other than best garbage man, because Kenny Lofton was a borderline Hall of Fame outfielder. So that's the lineup.
Well, can you imagine Kenny Lofton running bases today?
Oh,
Ricky
my God.
Henderson running bases today.
Yeah, Vince Coleman.
Yeah.
Willie McGee. Wow.
Absolutely unbelievable. Did you see anything opening weekend that you looked at and went, wow, other than things on the rules?
I have a little spark of hope for Anaheim. Watching Trout and Ohtani go back to back the other day, I don't even remember seeing that happen last year. I'm sure it did, but I don't know. I like the vibe out of Anaheim early. A lot of questions, obviously, but I didn't see. I mean, I would argue that in my life, there's as much talent in the game today as any time I've ever seen in my life. And I think you could build a potential full Hall of Fame team from a 25 and under and 25 and over lineup. Very comfortably build a team in both. And I'm not sure that that's kind of has been the case in the past 10, 15 years. I think there's more young talent in the game than any time in my lifetime.
That's crazy. I actually got to watch Dylan Cease's start, and I'm mad that I didn't put future money on him to win Cy Young.
Who?
Dylan Cease from the White Sox.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had a phenomenal.
Well, Garrett Cole looks sensational. Ohtani looks sensational. The American League is stacked.
Oh, my goodness.
With arms.
Yeah, without the Dodgers and Padres.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, great opening weekend, Curt. I think we're lining up for a really interesting season. Don't forget to tune in to OutKick for baseball coverage and everything else.
Yeah, outkick.com, guys. Check it out. So far, good feedback. If you got any feedback, you want to hear anything, I'm gonna whip out. So I'm gonna actually scoot my camera over here, Bill, for a sec. Oh no, camera's up here. Actually, I won't. What I'll do is I have a bag here, Bill. You can see the end of it's really dusty.
Yep.
This was my pitching bag. This has all my notebooks in it, and I pulled it out of the garage. And it's funny because it is dirty as hell, but I found like there's lineup cards from games. This is my 200th win. This is a game I pitched I struck out 17. But here's the thing that's fun about this, right? I go to, this is 1993 against the Marlins. Leading off, Chucky Carr. Hitting second, Brett Barbary. Third, Jeff Conine. Orestes Destrade. Alex Arias, Rob Natal, Whitmore, Walt Weiss, starting Charlie Huff. In the bullpen, Brian Harvey, who I mentioned earlier, Santiago on the bench, Santiago, McGriff, Sheffield. I mean, the names are just, and so I go through, and here's one that I laughed. So this is 1990, I believe 92. When no, it might be 93, but this is Phillies Reds. Leading off for the Cincinnati Reds. Want to take a guess?
What year?
Deion Sanders. Yeah. Hitting second, Reggie Sanders, Barry Larkin, Hal Morris, Brett Boone, Benito Santiago. I mean, just so yeah. So anyway, in the future, what I plan on doing is going through this. I have my notes and my notebook stuff in there, and I'm going to bring it out, and I'm going to walk people through how my notebook came to be and what it was and what it contained and all the things that go with that once I dust it all off. So that'll be a future episode.
I can't wait.
That'll be
Absolutely
fun.
can't wait.
Have a great week, guys. See you guys on Friday.